Ro.creating. Welcome. So this is what we're going to end up with today. Built-in table saw, built-in router table, all at the same level as the poke and benches. Lovely. And here's where we ended up. 3. And it's black. So the first thing I really needed to figure out here was my finished table surface, the level of that. Everything else works off that. So get some glue. Trick I learned years ago from my dad was get some corrugated cardboard, and it's a really handy tool when you want to compress something because you can control the amount of compression it's going to have. So you put a glue on top of each, surface on, and once you get it to the finished level you just let the glue dry and you're done. So once that glue is dry, come along the next day and then you can kind of get the rest of that table into place. Put in your countersunk screws and get that table flat and true. Now you want to bring that table saw up to meet that level, to meet that finish. And sometimes when you're off by a little bit it takes some really delicate fine tuning. Yeah, that'll do. So then you make a base of whatever bits and pieces of wood you want to get it up to the right level, cut them all to the size of the saw and just build it up. Happy days. So all gone well, you'll have a table saw that's at the same level as your bench top. I need to clean that table so badly. Yeah, it's been stored bad for a while. Anyway, so once all that's done and you have your levels correct, get your glue, and I think I needed to come up a tiny little bit here, so again I used the corrugated card. It's such an easy thing to do. Just if you want to fine tweak a level, you want to make something a bit higher, but you want to have the ability to control if you need to compress it or not compress it. And in this case I needed a few more. But it's a really simple way of having a nice solid base at exactly the height that you want it to have. And then all going well, everything's singing and dancing. Now with all my benches and everything, I needed to add on a little piece here because eventually what I'd really like to do is to put trim all the way around it and sort of wrap it around all these corners as I'm going along. I think that would look lovely. Man, he's always eating offcuts. It's unreal. Anyway, so I glued that piece on pretty badly, as you can see, and screwed it in place. That offers me that continuous edge around the corner, which is lovely. Now I wanted to sort of make a box for the saw to sit into, so got a couple of, again, just all offcuts. Gonna brace it up both sides, front and back, kind of get a little seat for that saw to sit into permanently. So a bit of fine jiggery, tack in place. It's just, you're cradling it, can't move around now. Then do my second favorite thing in the world, paint it black. So next thing to do then was to set the level of my router table. So just got a piece of tri-ply and a bit of 3/4 inch and just kept messing around with it until the level of that router table was just level with the bench top, and that was ideal. Then kind of just clean up around the edges and then start adding my trim. It's a bit, I always like this part of woodwork. It just, I don't know, there's something really nice about just edging plywood. I've always enjoyed it, always liked it. Now if you're putting trim like this on, you have to remember everything is based on 45 degrees. All these surfaces are interjecting at 90 degrees to each other, and if you want them to meet, you gotta use 45-degree corners. It's a miter joint. So again, the only advice I can give you here is, start on one side and finish on the other. Just keep going one by one by one by one and get it right. Once it's right, tack it in place. But everything is based on 45 degrees. And I think for 5-10 minutes work, the end result, what you get, is just priceless, because it makes it look finished and clean and polished. Love it. Moldings are great. Sorry, but like, look at that. It's lovely. So now it's all about getting your levels right. And I gotta say, I love the way the saw just clunks into place. Oh, love that. I wanted to extend the rails of the table saw out so that I could use sleds and whatnot afterwards. So here I'm just marking out the extension of those rails, and I'm gonna take them out with a router. So I set up 2 fences at 90 degrees, and now slowly but surely I'm going to start routing that little rail out. Pass after pass, take a little bit off every time. And when you're at the right level, we'll do the other one. That's done, you've extended both rails, and then your table saw, when it's put in place, oh listen, watch, oh, clunk, I love that clunk. You've extended your 2 rails. Happy days. So for all intents and purposes, this is done. Now all I want to do is finish it, so I'm going to give it a couple of good coats of varnish. I want this to be hard wearing. It's going to be getting a lot of abuse, so varnish, lots of varnish. These 2 little pieces, you'll see these later on. The long one is going to be an extension to my miter fence. So the next thing I want to do now is get power to all these tools. So I'm going to get an extension lead wired around, plug it into a socket that I'm now going to wire. So get your extension lead in place, tack it along. Figure out where you want your kind of access point to be. So the problem here is I have to put my socket onto the short bench, and I have to put my plug then be able to get into that socket because the whole table moves. So it'll kind of make sense. You get your access port on the thing, then you mark that off in the short bench, so you know now where your socket needs to be, so you can now figure out where am I going to put my socket. Find your 4 corners, drill them through, get your jigsaw, cut it out, and sometimes it doesn't go well, and then you remember metal, friction, hot. Really hot. Anyway, after getting that out, get your socket in place, get your electrician, get him to do proper wiring on it, because I certainly don't recommend doing it yourself, but you can at least do the donkey work for the electrician. So get all your access ports, feed your cables through, out through the socket, and happy days. Now I have power going from my wall all the way through to my extension lead. I've poured all the power I want. So after taking out a hole for my router table to get plugs and all that through, it was a case of then trying to figure out how I could mount my switch for the table saw. And something kind of struck me, I could brace it in there and at the same time I could create a little shelf above it, because my little table saw has all these square holes on top of it, and that's just going to allow dust to flow all the way down to the bottom and fill up those shelves underneath. So I decided I'd make these little shelves that would fit underneath all those holes, just make it a little bit more user friendly, and that would give me a nice surface that I could screw my switch onto. Happy days. And it gives me a place to put all the little bits I need. So I decided I'd do that on both sides. Just little shelves with a little lip on them to stop things falling into the saw. I could put all my bits and pieces. And then come along obviously and paint things black. And then I clean my rotor table and clean my saw. Look at that, spotless. Absolutely beautiful. User friendly, clean, happy days.
So, after a couple of months of working like a weekend warrior and freezing myself to death, I'm finally here. I have my wood store, I have my table saw, my router, I have my sanding machine, I have my lathe, I have my built-in saw, I have my pulp bench on wheels. Yes! Finally! Yes!